Okay, so now we are live on YouTube, and today we have a review on the book Clean Gut, and we'll have Ruchira Bhargavanti reviewing this book. So it's on tips to help you keep your gut clean, as the title suggests, and it is written by Alejandro Junger. So,
Okay, so now we are live on YouTube,
sorry,
and today,
yeah. So, without further ado, I would like to pass the virtual baton to Auntie. You have to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Joy. So the author of Clean Gut is Dr. Alejandro Juner. He is a MD, doctor, cardiologist from New York who has written this book. I'll just tell the structure of this book because it's part medical, part personal struggles that he went through, and part the solutions he arrived at. So the first half of the book talks about root cause of finding or identifying a disease and what role does the gut play in it. And he talks about from personal experience and stories in that part. Second half of the book, he generally describes what gut is like in our body. I know we use the word gut with gut feel, and I hate him for my gut or I love him for my gut and all of that. So gut has a different association that he's brought up in this book, which is very interesting. So he talks about gut function, gut dysfunction, and he talks about what a clean gut looks like. And lastly, he has arrived with principles of clean living. And by clean living, he means clean gut, and recipes and all that he shared, which I thought maybe not very relevant, but I will go through it in the best way possible. So the book Clean Gut starts with a story narrative from the author. He remembers his childhood. He spent his time in Uruguay. That's where he is from. And he talks about a gardener in their house who used to tend to all the plants and trees in their garden. And he would spend much time with him, trying to do the plants sometimes and getting his hand dirty. So they had a bond. Now, this child noted at a year, he was about 8 or 9 years old, that, sometimes the plant would be wilting, the leaves would be wilting or drying, and some branches infected, so it's kind of dying. And he would see what the gardener was doing, with that plant. So he would often wonder that the problem is staring in front of our eyes, like the leaf is drying, the branch is decaying, and why is this guy spending so much time in the mud and digging and all of that? So you asked him. He said the problem is just in front of us. Why do you keep on putting more fertilizer and watering it and devising a plan, all that? So the gardener gives him a very short reply. He says, your tree's health and disease is in its roots. If you change the conditions around the root, the leaf and will return to being lush green, and the plant will also revive if it's decaying and all of that. So somehow he just remembered that experience, and then he went on to US to study medicine. He spent 8 years studying in a medical school. 6 years he was training, and 15 years of medical practice as a cardiologist. Now that left him with the we think that he was very successful, but actually that left him very, very sick. Why? Because he was working almost 24 hours a day, getting very less sleep, eating microwave food, fast food. He was attacked by seasonal and allergies, which were becoming chronic. He had a general discomfort in his body, and most of his meals came from the hospital cafeteria. More than that, he had abdominal pains at times, cramps, bloating, episodes of diarrhea, and soon he was looking worse than what his patients were looking. So this is what he received after being a medical doctor in the fraternity for almost 20-25 years. And he was terribly affected with allergies. irritable bowel syndrome, which is IBS, and depression. He was getting into bouts of depression also. Now he went to see three different doctors. Finally, he got the courage and he said, okay, let me just go and they all three prescribed three different types of medication. But he knew that this will only kill the symptom and it will not be the change in scenario what he was going. He's a doctor, he understands life outside the medical and inside his body very well. So that led him to start finding out these solutions from outside. So he began reading books. He consulted some counselors in alternate medicines or went to social workers. Finally, through one of his friends, he landed up with a school teacher who used to teach meditation. Now, he did find a lot of relief, peace, and quiet suddenly came to him. But again, it was really not doing anything to his health per se. And one day he had this experience in the meditation hall when everybody was meditating. And then one French guy got up and he was telling his experience that how meditation has transformed his life. And the more he was talking, Dr. Yuner suddenly felt he got into this literally this tunnel effect where he almost got into the body of this guy and he felt he was talking because everything that he was narrating about his life was exactly reflective of what Dr. Yuner was going through. And finally, he also gave the French guy gave his reasons as to how this his life has come back on track, and everyone clapped after that. And that's when he suddenly awoke and he felt his coming back to his body, and that was a very strange experience for him. And he sweated profusely as this whole talk was going on. So at the end of the class, he told the teacher about it, and she inquired, "What do you do?" And he says, I'm a cardiologist." And she just basically had a meaningful laugh, like smiled at him, and she said, "Oh, you're one of those." And she just thumped his chest and she walked. But when she thumped his chest, he again went through some kind of he says, spiritual awakening, is what he calls it. He says it was a very different experience. And after this experience, there was from that meditation school, there was a request for a doctor to visit India because their mother school needed one doctor, the previous one had left, and he volunteered for it. He says, "Okay, let me go and see what happens." So now, when he visited India, he discovered a whole different way of how people do things, eat things, live things. A small strand of cilantro would also have digestion properties, something very different than what he had experienced. And in that gathering were also Chinese doctors, Ayurvedic guys, and acupuncturists, therapists, massage guys. So it was a very integrative community, and each person would share their learnings on human body and share it with each other. So that was again a mind blowing experience for him, and he learned from there that the most powerful tool that has an effect on our body is nothing but the food that we eat. So so this old proverb, which is "food is medicine," he really understood after coming to India. So he calls these three aha moments of his life. You know that he discovered something which really had a very impactful left a very impactful impression on him. So from India, after he stayed here, then he went back to US and he joined city of Joshua Tree near Palm Springs, and again his regular doctor life started. And with that started the sleepless nights again, the medicines, and how they treat people over there. Everything again turned back into what it was, and the IBS and depression again came back. Now, another experience he had was Eric, who was a friend of his, came to visit him and he talked about some spa and he was looking 10 years younger. He said, "What have you done?" And he says, "No, there's a spa here I can introduce you to, and they drink juices and it's a 10-day program, and why don't you try it also?" So he went and he did something called a colonic hydrotherapy over there, which really helps you to release toxins from the tissues rather than intestine. And his constant hunger and headaches went away with that on day 3. On day 7, he experienced energy coming back to his body. And by the end of that, he just felt like a new person, a lot of energy and all that he felt. So that was the second aha moment that he went through. Now, after that, he joined a course in Los Angeles called Applying Functional Medicine in Clinical Practice. And that really is nothing but, applying various traditional mechanisms into your medical practice and see how it goes. So finally, this was the missing link. And, he had an opportunity also. The Indian guys meditation school was calling him to set up a new hospital in India. So he went back to his teacher and he said, what should I do? And and she said, don't be in a hurry, don't worry, and just do things as they come. So again, he went back to his medical practice, but now he was a changed man. So he was doing cardiology in the morning, and in the evenings he was learning how these V-Spa resorts were making these shakes, these vegetable and all of that. And soon he was just doing a lot of talks, and he became a man of science, according to him. He became a man of science because now he was experimenting to see what is really suiting his body. So he was now blending Indian knowledge with the Western medicine, something that he was not wanting to do when he went to 3 doctors and they gave him 3 solutions. Now he found one solution for all the 3 problems that he had with allergies, depression, as well as gastroenteritis. So now this is the first half of the book. This is how he came together. And he says, after so many years of staying in the medical profession, what he arrived at was a good medical practitioner is like a good gardener. That's what he understood. That's the lesson he drew after spending so much time what he's doing. So in the second half of the book, then he talks about how our gut basically is uh, organized. Yeah. So the gut, basically, the book, as per him, he says our body has 2 brains. One is the head, where we have the intellectual capital, where we make all the decisions and all of that. It's a intellectual hardware there. The gut is more of a spiritual and an emotional GPS. It keeps telling us what's good, what's not good. It's just that we choose not to listen to it most times, right? Suppose we are feeling bloated, we know that we've eaten more, but the next day we probably might do same when we are feeling better. So this portion, the gut keeps guiding us, but we are sort of not listening to it. So he calls it the second brain of our body, and he describes this whole habitat of gut as a country. So he says each gut is like a country, and it has lands, and like a country has lands and borders. It has specific places where different infrastructure and communication takes place. It has citizens, and it has a homeland security to keep you away from foreign invaders and things like that. So you can imagine, in a very creative way, he has helped the layman person who's non-medical to understand what the gut is like. Okay, so he says basically the gut has tiny sparks of electricity, uh, which has spiritual and emotional and intuition all stored in it. It has 4 parts. The first part is the digestive tube, and that's like the biggest border of this country. Okay, it starts from our mouth and it goes all the way to our anus. So it starts, and it has different milestones along the way. Another fascinating story before this I'd like to sort of tell is that if if our body and the outside are 2 distinguished things, there are three organs which basically interact with this foreign outside. One is our skin, right? Skin is like a border. Everything inside it is ours, and then it saves us, protects us, all of that. So one is skin, which is interacting with the outside border of where we live. Second is our nose, which we breathe with. So we are always taking oxygen. it's doing something and then it's giving out carbon dioxide. So it's again interacting with the outside environment. And third is our mouth, right? Where we eat, drink, whatever happens. And then the body, takes this and processes it and makes it into our body, basically, right? So the first part is the digestive body, that digestive tube, which is the busiest border of, our of the gut. And here we do few things like chewing the food, and that's a physical thing. But then we are also bringing our enzymes and all of that, juices, into that. So there is a chemical process also happening to the things that we are intaking in our thing. Then the second thing is, there is gut associated lymphatic tissue, vault it's called. And this basically has bunch of tissues that helps, the intestine. Our intestine is almost 15 to 20 feet, and imagine it's all wrapped up and in our stomach. And it inside it there are these micro organisms called villi, and I think it's villi hairs, basically. And what that does is it basically helps the absorption part of any nutrition that we eat, the first thing. So essentially this is what the also makes up the intestinal flora and fauna. Like we have the trees and the flowers and everything in our garden. So he calls all these little things, the bacteria, the viruses, everything that is in our gut, he calls it intestinal flora and fauna. And that keeps our that does a lot of exercise of absorption. Also it helps to eliminate what's not useful for our body. So that's where the gut plays the role of a custom and immigration officer. It tells certain part of our food to our bloodstream, and then eliminates other, and takes it away. Now there's something, the term they have used in a gut which is dysfunctional is something called a leaky gut. So because the tube is so long, it's very tightly packed and all the cells are like very close to each other. And in case even one cell is not connected, then the undigested food will also try to go into the bloodstream, which will not be such a good thing, right? So that is a condition called a leaky gut, which a dysfunctional gut may have, right? So the intestinal walls captures all the waste and toxic things and puts it in a different tube, and that eliminates it from our body, right? So that's how the gut is organized. And he has a small memory that he talks about here, that when he was on the working with the V Spa resorts, at that point of time, he was hardly eating anything. I think they were pretty much on juices for 10 days, and he was surprised that he was still producing stools. And he was wondering where these stools are coming from, because I'm really not eating food. And then he figured out that when we give a rest to our gut, right? Because the gut is working 24/7, right? It's also got a nervous system in it. It is other than absorbing the right things, the other job it does is of immunity building. So if there's any other thing which will come accidental or whatever, so the gut is the first thing gets alert, okay, and it stops everything else and just directs its attention to protecting, surviving. Suppose you start running, now the gut will turn its attention to your running. It'll forget about the thirst, this, that, absorbing. It will go into that exercise mode, and it will start functioning that way. So the gut is, and other than the sleep time, it's also working constantly. So he figured that the black stool that he was producing was really foldings, uh, which were which the body was digging out of from its tissues. At the time he was only on juices and things like that. So he's given an analogy of there is so much muck that gets, stored in our guts, which we conveniently think it's fat, right? That it's really more and more toxic things getting stored in our things. And he gave the analogy of a dishwasher. When the dishwasher is washing the dishes and something is exceptionally dirty, it just, the water just goes on running it till it scraps it out completely and the dish is clean. So that's what is happening when you give your gut a rest, you know. So that is what our gut also behaves like. Then he talks about so he talks about these intestinal flora in the gut stimulates the gall, meaning making our gut like a fermentation tank, so that we are able to, as soon as the food comes in, it gets digested quickly, right? Now, the mistake we make is, especially in the five stars we go, or places where they have buffet, nothing can be more destroying to the gut than a whole array of eating, different types of food. So the right combination of food is very important, and we as Indians know it better. The kind of food we eat. It's a very balanced diet. We have dal, chawal, sabzi, roti. But when our lifestyle becomes such that we have a large choice, it takes a toll on the gut, especially if we are doing it very regularly, right? People experience bloating, and some people get a paunch. Now, he gives a very, very uh, correct review of why people have a tummy. Is he says it's not fat; it is really your intestines have now protruded because of all these chemicals inside them, the different chemicals. Let's say you have had pineapple juice with something else, milk, for example. It doesn't really go. See, in the end, if the stomach is just treating it as like one chemical against the other and trying to digest it, and so it just bloats. So the first thing it does is it pushes the stomach outwards. Then, to make more space, it compresses your other organs in the body, which is your pancreas, your kidneys, and uterus, all of that, right? So it is having some kind of an impact all through your organs, and diaphragm moves up. So people suddenly start feeling, little breathless and all that. I had a big meal, want to sleep, and all of that. So over a period of time, if you're not changing, like he didn't change, he was eating fast food, he was eating microwave food, and all of that. So he realized that it has taken such a toll, and the moment he started, working on only his gut, um, so it's like a vicious circle. I made a small diagram about it. So basically, he says that, one second, let me pull it up. Yeah. So he says, suppose somebody has IB syndrome, and he has a gut that is not very healthy. Then he his serotonin, which is the neurotransmitters that make us feel happy, that also get originated in the gut. Okay? So those neurotransmitters are not getting produced because the gut is busy fighting different battles. So the serotonin comes down, and then what the effect of that is, if we are depressed, then your mobility comes to a standstill, because depressed people normally don't want to do too many things. They will probably wake up late, don't want to eat the food, or do want to do whatever they feel like. So, and the digestion again takes a toll. So again, it's a reverse effect on the gut. And then your IB syndrome, your irregular bowel syndrome takes toll. And so it's like becomes like a vicious circle. So what he did was he got out of that without taking any medication. And he started investing in his gut through the right things, and also scientifically seeing what's working and what's not working. And that reinforced, started making those serotonin again, so he was not so depressed. And then the positive cycle improved everything else: the allergies, the psychic problems that he was having, that depression, everything, right? So for all the three problems he had, he was able to turn it around. Now, after this, I'd just like to talk about a few case studies that he has explained, which people normally take it to be like a medical issue. For example, he says the cardiac arrests or the cardiac heart attacks that happen. Now the normal doctors will completely miss it, because the doctors, they become specialists and they become super specialists. So the super specialist doctor is only looking at hearts. He's not looking at gut. He's not looking at your eyes or anything else, right? So these super specialist doctors will only treat the heart and not think about anything else. So what he says is there is a paradox. So the gut can be sick for many years and not show up sick, right? Anything else, you know you're sick. You have a headache, you have a cold, your arm is paining. For everything, you know that you have a problem there. But for a gut to be sick, you never know. You just don't know the problem is lying there. So he says the paradox is the gut only sends some kind of intuition and signals to the body when something else also may be sick. So, for example, a lot of people say there'll be a pain in your left arm if you're going to have a heart attack, right? So, why is what's the arm got to do with the heart? Why can't the heart pain? Heart never pains. It's always something else which goes wrong. So, what he says is the gut at that time plays a trick of symptom of either nausea or indigestion, or it diverts the attention. It needs more oxygen. So gut also needs a lot of oxygen to do its job, right? Which makes us feel breathless, right? So so according to Dr. Yoner, it's a desperate attempt by the gut to show the seriousness of the situation, which may be a cardiac or whatever. So then he takes the case of cancer patients, and these are all the things that he has helped people reverse, and that's why he's talking about it. So, so what does cancer really, in a layman's language, mean? It means a group of cells in our body have turned terrorists. Okay, and they are killing innocent cells, and they are multiplying extensively, and they are competing for the neighboring organ, or the food, whatever is coming in, and the tissues. And so the most common problem as solution, as we all know, is chemotherapy, which basically tries to wipe away the corrupted cells. But in that process, we also know now that the good cells, get also affected and killed. So he tried, and some people also say that how will my gut know about the cancer I have in my somewhere else, and how is it even connected? It's genetic. My grandmother had it, my mother had it, and I'm also having it. So his reply to that is, we may be carrying some genetic things, which also kind of lay dormant within us, but the trigger of it coming out always depends, mostly depends on the gut. Because if we are constantly not treating it right with the right flora, fauna, everything, then obviously something wrong is waiting to open its door and say, okay, fine, I'm going to spread. So he says even patients who have cancer, once they were given these green juices and all of that, a lot of people initially in the first stage, second stage, start taking these treatments extensively on their own, because they know that it is being neglected, so I should do it, and it really plays a wonderful role in that. So he's talked about, so I've given you example of cardiac situation, cancer, depression. Depression, I told you that serotonin actually gets generated in the gut by five, uh, uh, five basically neurons, which is 5-HTP, vitamin B6, magnesium, and calcium, and they together synthesize and make up serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter, meaning it communicates goodness or well-being within us, makes us happy, and things like that. So so a lot of things are required to kind of keep the gut happy and balanced, because otherwise it would just get distracted to do the survival mechanism to increase our immunity in places when we need it. And so people who have a lot of back problems also, the gut is somewhere also needs to be taken care of. So there are a lot of problems that he has given solutions to, but I'm just giving a small, explanation of each of them so that you know how important a role the gut plays. Mm, yes, and so in the end, basically, he talks about basic principles of what he did for others to kind of get them back on track. So he started experimenting it on his patients, and what he says the basic principle is that your food should have 80-20 principle, where 80% is veggies and greens, and 20% is proteins. These proteins could be egg, meat, if you prefer, and good fats. And the second basic principle is eat 80% of what you're hungry for. And I think we know as Indians, we have heard this time and again. So we know these rules. But then he also says don't combine foods like eat your chickens, for example, the meats with vegetables. Don't eat it with complex carbs, right? Vegetable and greens and lentils go together. Vegetable, greens, meat goes together, but animal protein and vegetable protein, like a dal or a chola or a chicken, don't go together. So in that sense, he's tried to give out some principles. Just to bring some more personal energy into this book, I tried this 21-day diet along with a friend of mine, and we went through all the things, do's and don'ts that he has given in the book. And of course, the don't is avoid gluten foods that have grains that are gluten have gluten in them, like wheat, गेहूं जो हम खाते हैं, then dairy, processed sugar, alcohol, caffeine, soy, potato, etc. Right? And this is don't eat for these 21 days when you do this diet, essentially. And among the so we kind of made it more Indianized when we started out, because we knew we will not be able to survive on just a soup in the evening. So his diet is basically 3 meals. The first one is a shake, which you can make out of any three fruits of your liking. It could be mango, apple, banana, whatever. So it's a large shake of 3 fruits. Lunch, there's no calorie counting, so you can have gluten-free rotis, which can be bajra, jwar, anything, besan chilas. There's lots of variety. You can have any vegetable that you like, and combine that food. So there's no restriction on the lunch, on the quantity, but it should be freshly made, and it should be made out of fresh things. No, the frozen stuff and all of that. So fresh food. And towards the evening, he suggests a soup, a warm soup in the evening. So we changed that to, let's say a dal with vegetables, like so something which we could chew and have it like a soup. So this is the first 21 days that he asks people to have. So there are 4 R's, which are 4 pillars to his gut repair. Like this is what they are doing to repair the gut. So first is remove, replace, inoculate, and the fourth one is repair. So when we are saying remove, we know what's an obstacle to our gut, which it may be a virus, bacteria, yeast, or foods that we are eating. So remove that from your diet. Second is replacing, meaning think of the newer way you're going to start eating and putting things in your stomach. Uh, Re-inoculate just means that, feed the gut with intestinal flora, fauna that it likes, bacteria, probiotics, in natural forms, dahi, fermented stuff if you're having dosas and stuff, but in the right combination. right? If you don't eat in the wrong combination, again, it will result into some kind of a bloating or not feeling good, all of that. So have the right combination of foods. And repair is this constant 21-day diet. It also helps in patching up the leaky gut. So if you have a cell which is missing in your intestinal wall, it will get fused. I'm telling you very easily, but he has lots of terminology there, which I'm trying to avoid. So that will help you to make your intestinal thing very strong. And of course, exercise and all of that we normally try to do. But he's just focused on food because food is medicine for him, and food has changed his entire white lifestyle, and he has enabled him to do his work and other things after that. So it's a book which is basically meant for things going in our gut and how we should keep it clean and just see changes in our health. So those days I saw my nails were quite pink, and how it started is my friend who I met who had already done a 21-day on this one. uh, I noticed her skin was like really glowing, and she's a little dusky. And I told her, I said, Mala, are you wearing some makeup today? Because I've never seen her. She says, Ruchi, I'm so happy you're saying that. I'm just cleaning my gut and I'm not wearing any makeup. So things like that also, made me also inspired. And I said, okay, I'd love to try how this goes. So chances are people say that after 21 days is also a habit forming time frame. So once you do something for 21 days, chances are you will follow it through. So Dr. Yuna says 21 days will help you to slowly recognize what your body doesn't like. So for example, there's no dairy, no gluten. So wheat is not going. What I learned is that slowly I brought in one thing after the next. So I brought in rotis first, and I realized that immediately my stomach had a little bit of a heaviness feeling. And I said, my God, I thought this was normal before the 21 days. And now I know that maybe I'm not so wheat friendly. My stomach is not so wheat friendly. So, like that, when you will bring in yogurt, milk slowly to your diet back, you will know what is not really agreeing with you. And then you have to make your peace with it and say, okay, fine, I will go from here to here and I would, have that. So those are the learnings. So, next 7 days after the 21 days is when you uh, figure out your toxins. And after that is when you have to kind of monitor your diet and everything the way you would like it to be, and see if there's any improvement in any of your conditions. If you had headaches, it has gone away, or if you had any other normal small irritants to your health, has that made a difference on that? So thank you very much. I hope I didn't take a long time. Did I take an hour or half an hour?
You took 40 minutes, but it was just great.
Okay.
The 40 minutes. So thank you, Auntie, for the insight into how everything is connected in our system with the gut and the story that the author has mentioned.
Yeah.
So it was a really great review, and I hope everyone viewing this video will add this book to their to-read lists, like Auntie also added after hearing someone do the same thing. So I've always thought that metaphoric explanation of things actually helps in understanding and relating to things better. So excellent metaphors in the book and well explained by you. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer, but
Yeah. Now the forum is open for any questions, suggestions, or comments.
Ruchira, it was great, it was great learning about it. I am going to buy this book and I am going to read it because I have so many problems with my gut. Always I am constipated. So I need to know, I need to understand